Great, thank you very much. And as you know, we are here assembled on the traditional territory of the Lekwungen-speaking people, the Esquimalt and Songhees First Nation. The last few days have been incredibly difficult for British Columbians as we've experienced yet another natural disaster. Heavy rains, strong winds, flooding have devastated entire communities of our province. Thousands of people have been forced from their homes under evacuation orders, and many others were left stranded between road closures and mudslides. Yesterday, the RCMP confirmed the mudslides have claimed at least one life. That's devastating news for a family. It's devastating news for all British Columbians. But sadly, we expect to confirm even more fatalities in the coming days. Yesterday, I spoke to Prime Minister Trudeau. He offered to provide assistance where needed to help us respond to the immediate disaster, as well as working with communities to rebuild going forward. The province has now formally requested that deployment of federal resources, including the armed forces, to assist with evacuations, managing of supply chains and resupply chains, security in inundated areas, as well as restoration of safe drinking water and other logistics assistance. I'd also want to thank the governments of Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Ontario, who were immediate in their offer of assistance to help in any way they can. Minister POPHAM will talk about a practical example that is going to serve us very, very well in the short term when she has her opportunity to speak. Multiple highways remain closed throughout BC. We're working diligently to assess the damage and make sure that we can get those supply roads back in shape as quickly as possible. But the conditions are severe, and it's essential that we work on these corridors in a way that makes safety our highest priority. And this means essential and emergency access will be limited in the days ahead. Already strained supply lines are at risk of greater disruption. Therefore, as of noon today, the Government of BC is declaring a state of emergency. The order will preserve basic access to services and supplies for communities across the province. We will bring in travel restrictions and ensure that transportation of essential goods and medical and emergency services are able to reach the communities that need them. Please do not hoard items. What you need, your neighbors need as well. We are confident that we can restore our supply chains in a quick and orderly manner, provided we all act as we have been acting over the past 2 years, responding to challenges like this in a collaborative, cooperative way to make sure that everyone can come through this in one piece. These are very challenging times. I don't need to say that I've been at this dais over the past 2 years talking about the challenges we've faced. Unprecedented challenges with public health, wildfires, heat domes, and now debilitating floods that we have never seen before. I spoke last evening with Mayor Linda Brown and her team in Merritt, and over the past 6 months, we had drought conditions in Merritt where the river was at its lowest point in living memory, where we had people evacuated because of wildfires raging in temperatures that were unprecedented. And now we have the entire community underwater, safe water and waste treatment not accessible to citizens. Despite that, the resilient people of Merritt, who have been evacuated not once but twice in the past number of weeks, stand ready to work together and cooperate with their neighbors and communities right around the region to get through this. The decisions we've made today have formed a working group of cabinet that consists of myself as the chair, Deputy Premier Mike Farnworth as the vice chair, Minister Popham, Minister Fleming, Minister Rankin, Minister Osborne, as well as Minister Robinson and Minister Ma, to ensure that we have expertise at the table on a daily basis. But this is an across-government response. Everyone will be pulling together. There's not a person that hasn't been affected or will not be affected by the events of this past weekend. We need to, as British Columbians, as we have done through the pandemic, as we did through wildfires in 2017 and 2018 and again this year, at almost every turn when we've hit crisis, British Columbians have rallied. They've rallied because of their resilience. And for those who understand and recognize that these events are increasing in regularity because of the effects of human-caused climate change, there is hope in terms of the roadmap to 2030 that we've developed here in British Columbia and the leadership that Canada is showing on the international stage to bring the other 7 billion souls on this planet to the position where we can understand that we need to act now to make the changes in our community and in our economy that will protect us from these types of events in the future. I'm now happy to pass the podium over to Minister Farnworth, who will walk through the events of the day, and then on to other ministers to update you on the circumstances in their various files.
Thank you, Premier, and good afternoon, everyone. And I'm honored to be here on the traditional territory of the Lekwungen-speaking people and the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations. As the Premier announced, today we are declaring a provincial state of emergency based on advice that I've received from Emergency Management BC and the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure. While the province has been able to take all necessary steps to respond to the emergency to this point, the next steps in this response may necessitate extraordinary measures only available through this declaration under the Emergency Program Act. This province-wide declaration will help us with the challenges ahead as we recover from the utter devastation that we are seeing. As you know, multiple highways remain closed throughout BC, causing disruptions to travel. And I encourage everyone not to travel unless it is essential. This is not the time for travel for leisure purposes. Our transportation infrastructure is crippled, and we need to ensure that it comes back online as quickly as possible, and we are prioritizing essential access. As the Premier stated, this is a catastrophic event, and we need to work to get through it together. We've been doing that through the COVID pandemic. We've been doing that through other emergencies in this province, and we're going to have to do it again. It's challenging, but I know all of us as British Columbians are up for that challenge. Above all, we need to ensure that everyone has access to food, water, and essential goods. We know people are concerned. We're aware as government, and industry is aware. We need to remain calm. There are many areas where there are not disruptions and goods are able to flow. Getting our roadways and rail back up and in operation is our #1 priority, and the Ministry of Transportation will provide whatever resources are necessary to make that happen. Emergency Management BC and our government as a whole will work to provide anything else that is needed. We fully recognize how important it is to reopen road connections from the Lower Mainland to the interior to get those supply chains moving. This declaration will allow us to implement any provincial emergency measures and allow access to all assets that may be necessary to prevent, respond, or to alleviate the effects of an emergency. This may include measures to prohibit non-essential travel, to prevent hoarding, to prevent price gouging, similar to what we had to do during the COVID-19 emergency. This may also include accessing any infrastructure at the province's disposal. In short, we will be doing everything possible. Also, as many of you know, late last night, the City of Abbotsford issued a warning to any remaining residents in an evacuated area in Sumas Prairie due to a potential failure of the pump station. People have been evacuating, but once again, I just want to make it clear, if anyone remains in this area, you need to leave immediately. I've been in contact with Bill Blair, my federal counterpart, the Federal Minister of Emergency Preparedness, to access federal assistance in this incident and the flooding situation in general. This includes Canadian Armed Forces, ground and air support. I'd also like to thank all first responders, local governments, and volunteers who have been working around the clock, responding to the flooding and helping people in need. I'll now pass it over to Minister Fleming for a further update.
Thank you and good afternoon. I want to provide this update from the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure. about how we are doing work to continue to reopen our roadways. I would first like to extend my sincere thanks to so many people who are doing incredible heavy lifting out there right across our province. Thousands of people are stepping up in extremely challenging conditions. People are helping strangers who have been stranded. They're providing food and shelter. Search and rescue volunteers are out there battling fatigue and continuing to do their job to keep people safe. Provincial staff from both the Emergency Management BC, the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure, and our road maintenance contractors are doing their jobs. Federal and local government partners, fire departments, and volunteers are putting in amazing efforts to help people and to restore connectivity in our road networks. There are countless others who will be mentioned in the days ahead who have done heroic things. As we move forward on reestablishing our transportation corridors, the outpouring of help and support has been nothing short of inspirational. Our ministry yesterday was able to get a first-hand look at the impacts of the worst weather storm in a century and the impacts it's had on our infrastructure. And our staff are now putting together specific repair plans for those sites that have sustained significant damage. Our immediate priority, as I mentioned yesterday, is to reestablish connections from the Lower Mainland to the interior and the north parts of the province. We know how vitally important it is to open routes and to have supply chains moving. That is our focus. We are working on this focus with multiple partners. And again, people and companies are really stepping up. CN Rail has been exceptionally helpful, moving people and goods by air, by helicopter, while work continues to open their rail lines. BC Ferries here on the coast is adding sailings for cargo out of Duke Point to Schwartz Bay to connect the South Island with the Mid and North Island, as well as extra sailings on the Mill Bay-Brentwood Bay route while work continues to fully open the Malahat Highway 1. The BC Trucking Association has been hugely supportive of our efforts to find alternate routes, as well as working with the province and the federal government, who are helping to facilitate goods movement through the United States that would otherwise be impacted by events in the Lower Mainland. Work is progressing to open highway routes along Highway 7 west of Agassiz. Emergency vehicle access was established yesterday, as I updated people. And I'm pleased to announce that as a couple of hours ago, that has opened up to single-lane alternating traffic. But again, for essential travel only. This is for people who have urgent needs, people who need to move livestock, people who need to move additional pump equipment to the Sumas Prairie area and the Barrowtown pump station. Last night, for example, our road maintenance contractor, Emil Anderson, delivered 40,000 sandbags to the Barrowtown pump station. Access via Highway 7 was critical to accomplishing this, and it speaks to the importance of keeping these roads for essential movement only. There was some unnecessary congestion on Highway 7 last night that impeded some of the efforts, but we got through it and people were cooperative. But that is why I ask the public to please still avoid that area if your travel is not absolutely essential. On the other side of Agassiz, towards Hope on Highway 7, we should have emergency vehicle access established later today, and we will notify the media and the public as we progress. Again, I want to stress how important it is that the general public not try to access that route for the time being, as you will only impede the safety of others with urgent needs. We're working closely with Emergency Management BC to prioritize people getting out of Hope who've been stranded there, but please, again, for the general public, stay away from those areas on Highway 7. In fact, as a general rule, if you're safe and secure where you are, we ask you keep any travel in impacted areas in your region to only that which is absolutely essential. Other highway networks for me to update today. Progress is being made on clearing and repairing some of the other routes, including Highway 3, Highway 99, as well as Highway 1, the Malahat on Vancouver Island. Highway 3, by the end of the weekends, will be open to emergency access, and we continue to work to restore full traffic on that route. Highway 99, work began this morning. The pavement appears to be intact on that route after we have cleared debris and slide material. We should have an update on the projected opening of Highway 99 by the end of today. Highway 1, as I mentioned, the Malahat here, the Island Highway, continued work is happening. The overnight closures last night were successful. Single lane alternating traffic is open in daylight hours, and for the next 5 and if necessary 6 evenings, there will be closures at night when we will advise the public of that. This is a huge job, but collectively we're up to the challenge, and we will get things opened up again just as soon as we possibly can. For my ministry, Janelle State will provide a detailed update on roadwork status across the province, as she has been doing. But I want to say in closing, just to reiterate the points that the Premier and Minister Farnworth have made, we're doing everything we can that is possible to get transportation links open and get people and goods moving. No resources will be spared. The federal government is highly engaged, and I want to thank Minister Alghabra again for the assistance he is providing. And they are ready to provide support and are providing support. And again, I want to thank all the emergency crews who have worked day and night since the weekend, tirelessly to keep people safe, and for those in the public who have stepped up to help each other in this incredibly difficult time. And I will now pass things over to Minister Popham.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is a very difficult time for agriculture in BC and our producers, especially in the Fraser Valley. My heart goes out to everyone affected by the flooding right now, and we're working hard to make contact with every association that we can. Over the last 2 days, we've made over 300 contacts with associations, with local government associations, with farmers directly, and this is being done through ministry support. We have lists of contacts that we use during emergencies. We've also been using social media to ask people to contact us if anybody has fallen through the cracks. I feel confident that we've covered off most commodity groups, and people understand that we're there with them. Our commitment in the ministry is to make sure that we are with them through this continuing emergency state, and that we'll be with them in recovery. There are some difficult issues that we're dealing with around animal welfare. There's probably hundreds of farms that have been affected by flooding. Some are still underwater, some are on dry locations, and we have thousands of animals that have perished. We have many, many more that are in difficult situations, and we're seeing an animal welfare issue develop. They need attention, and so with my colleagues, we're developing routes so that veterinarians can access farms and get to the animals as soon as possible. There will have to be euthanizations that happen, but there are also animals who have survived that are going to be in critical need for food in the next 24 hours. We knew we had a window of about 3 to 4 days in our poultry sector, in our dairy sector, but those stores are running out now. And some of the food that has been stored is underwater itself. So we've made contact with feed mills. We've made contacts with our colleagues across the nation to try and access food that's going to be needed to keep these animals healthy. I can tell you that the contacts that I've made over the years, we exchange cell phone numbers. And so over the last 2 days, I've been able to have FaceTime discussions with farmers, and some of them are in their barns, and some of their barns are flooded, and you can see the animals that are deceased, and it's heartbreaking. This is an especially difficult time for our livestock producers. We will make sure that disaster relief funds are available for farmers, and that we're supporting them in every step of the way. Another unfortunate situation is that our agricultural animal and health lab has been flooded in the Fraser Valley, and that's an important piece of infrastructure that we need to do disease testing, but it also tests for milk in our milk supply. So we are very grateful that Alberta and Saskatchewan have reached out to us and offered their lab services. That's going to make a big difference as we try and get back on our feet. The minister, the federal minister of agriculture, Minister Bibeau, has reached out and dedicated her support. I've also heard directly from the Minister of Ontario, who has also lent her support as well. And so this is early days in this disaster for agriculture. Things are still unfolding, but myself, along with my colleagues and the Premier, we're committed to making sure that agriculture is supported as much as possible. Thank you.